When a dying veteran with no family asks for one last thing, a biker funeral for a man no one will mourn, most people scroll past. One writer didn't. Marcus, Ironside, saw the post at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, couldn't sleep after reading it, and made a decision that would bring 300 strangers to a forgotten cemetery in rural Wyoming. This is not a story about a funeral. This is a story about what we owe the dead, what we owe each other, and what happens when a single act of honor reveals a truth that changes everything. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And if you believe some deaths can never be repaid, only honored, hit that subscribe button. Because this story will remind you that the most powerful thing a human being can do is show up for someone who has no one left. The post appeared on a veteran support forum at 11:32 p.m. on a Monday night in late September. The username was Anonymous Vet 1952. The subject line read, "Last request from a dying soldier." Marcus Caldwell, Ironside, to anyone who knew him, was browsing the forum because he couldn't sleep again. It had been like this for 3 years, ever since his brother Tommy died in a VA hospital in Phoenix, alone, because Marcus had been deployed overseas and couldn't get leave approved in time. Guilt has a way of keeping you awake. Marcus was 46 years old, former Army sergeant, 22 years of service across 3 wars. He'd retired with full honors, a chest of medals he kept in a drawer, and a Purple Heart he'd earned in Fallujah when an IED turned his Humvee into a fireball. He'd walked away with burns on his left side, nerve damage in his hand, and survivor's guilt that never quite went away. After retirement, Marcus had drifted, tried normal life, couldn't make it fit. The civilian world felt too quiet, too soft, too far removed from the intensity he'd known for 2 decades. Then he found motorcycles. And through motorcycles, he found the Iron Brotherhood Riders, a club of veterans who'd traded one kind of brotherhood for another. They rode for fallen soldiers, for PTSD awareness, for military families. They showed up at VA hospitals with care packages. They escorted Gold Star families to funerals. It gave Marcus purpose again. So when he couldn't sleep, he'd scroll veteran forums, looking for people who needed help. Someone struggling with VA claims. Someone asking about treatment options. Someone just needing to know they weren't alone. That's how he found the post. He almost scrolled past it, but something made him stop.
The post was short, simple, heartbreaking. Last request from a dying soldier. My name is James Edward Holland. I'm 71 years old, Vietnam veteran, 1st Cavalry Division, 1968 to 1970. I'm currently in hospice at the Cheyenne VA Medical Center in Wyoming. The doctors say I have days, maybe a week. I don't have any family left. Wife died 6 years ago. No kids, no siblings. Parents gone. The few friends I had are either dead or haven't spoken to me in decades. When I die, there will be no one at my funeral, no one to salute, no one to fold the flag, no one to remember that I served. I've seen videos online of bikers showing up for veterans' funerals, hundreds of them, paying respects to soldiers they never knew. I know I'm nobody. I'm just an old man who made a lot of mistakes and pushed away everyone who cared. But I was a soldier once, and I'd like to be remembered as one. If any bikers read this and can make it to Cheyenne, Wyoming, I'd be honored. If not, I understand. Thank you for your service. James Edward Holland, Specialist, U.S. Army. The post had been up for 6 hours. 0 replies. Marcus stared at his screen, reading it twice, 3 times. His chest felt tight. He thought about Tommy, dying alone, no family at his bedside. Marcus halfway around the world, helpless, arriving 3 days too late. He thought about the thousands of veterans who died the same way every year, alone, forgotten. Their service reduced to a file number in a database. Marcus looked at the time. 2:47 a.m. He opened a new browser tab and searched for the distance from Phoenix, Arizona to Cheyenne, Wyoming. 1,247 miles. 18 hours of writing. He didn't hesitate. He typed a reply. Last request from a dying soldier. James, my name is Marcus Caldwell, Army vet, retired. I'm in Phoenix. I'm riding out at dawn. I'll be there. You won't die alone, brother. Ironside. Marcus posted the message, then immediately opened the Iron Brotherhood Riders group chat and started typing. Ironside. Anyone awake? 3 dots appeared, then a reply. Wrench. Yeah, what's up? Ironside. I need help. There's a vet dying in Cheyenne. No family. Asking for bikers at his funeral. I'm riding out in a few hours. Could use company. Another set of dots. Wrench. How far? Ironside. 1,247 miles from Phoenix. Wrench. Jesus. That's 2 days of hard riding. Ironside. I know. A long pause. Then, wrench. I'm in. Give me 2 hours to pack. Within 20 minutes, 4 more members had committed. By dawn, 12 Iron Brotherhood riders were gassed up and ready to roll. But Marcus wasn't done. He posted James Holland's message to every veteran motorcycle forum he could find, shared it on Facebook groups, sent it to riding clubs across 6 states. And then he climbed on his Harley and rode. The ride from Phoenix to Cheyenne is brutal. Through the high desert of Arizona, into the mountains of New Mexico, across the endless plains of Colorado, then into Wyoming, where the wind cuts through leather like it's paper, and the highway stretches to the horizon without mercy. Marcus and his 12 brothers rode in formation, tight, disciplined, the way they'd been trained. They stopped for gas and coffee every 100 miles. Barely spoke, didn't need to. Each of them understood what this was. This was a mission. And you don't abandon missions. Somewhere outside of Santa Fe, Marcus checked his phone during a fuel stop. The forum post had exploded. 17 new replies, then 30, then 50. Riders from Colorado were mobilizing. A club from Montana was heading south. Veterans from Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, all posting that they were coming. One message caught Marcus's attention. It was from a woman named Carol, who identified herself as a volunteer at the Cheyenne VA. To the riders coming for James Holland. I work at the VA hospital where James is staying. I've been his volunteer visitor for the past 3 weeks. I want you to know, James is a good man. He's been through a lot, made mistakes he's spent his whole life regretting, but he doesn't deserve to die forgotten. Thank you for doing this. He doesn't know you're coming yet. I think it will mean everything to him. Please be safe on the road. Carol. Marcus saved the message and kept riding. By the time they crossed into Wyoming, the sun was setting behind them, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that looked like fire. Marcus thought about war, about brothers lost, about all the funerals he had attended where the fallen were honored by hundreds. And he thought about James Holland, lying in a hospice bed, believing no one cared. Not on Marcus's watch.
They arrived at Cheyenne just after midnight, exhausted, sore, covered in road dust. Marcus checked into a cheap motel, showered, and collapsed into bed. But sleep wouldn't come. It never did. At 6 a.m., his phone buzzed. A text from Wrench. "You need to see this." Marcus opened the link. It was a news article from the Cheyenne Tribune. Bikers mobilizing for dying veteran's funeral. The story had gone viral. Local news picked it up, then regional, then national. By noon, Marcus's phone was ringing non-stop. News crews wanted interviews. The VA hospital wanted to coordinate. Riding clubs from across the country were calling, asking for details. Marcus sat in the motel parking lot, staring at his phone, overwhelmed. This was supposed to be simple. Show up, pay respects, honor a fallen brother. Now it was a movement. Marcus visited James Holland that afternoon. The Cheyenne VA hospice wing was quiet, sterile, the kind of place where people came to die with as much dignity as medicine could provide. Room 14. Marcus knocked softly. A weak voice answered. "Come in." Marcus pushed the door open. James Holland lay in the hospital bed, small and frail under white sheets. He'd been a soldier once. You could still see it in his posture, the way he held his shoulders, despite the weakness. But age and illness had taken everything else. His skin was pale, almost translucent. His breathing was labored. An oxygen tube ran under his nose. Monitors beeped softly beside the bed. But his eyes, sharp and clear, locked onto Marcus the moment he entered. "You Ironside?" James's voice was a rasp. "Yes, sir." James studied him. Then, slowly, a smile cracked across his weathered face.
"You actually came." "I said I would." James's eyes filled with tears. I didn't think anyone would really come." Marcus pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. "You're not alone, James. Not anymore." "How many?" James asked quietly. "How many riders showed up?" Marcus hesitated. He hadn't checked the latest count. "At least 50 so far. More coming." James's hand trembled as he reached for a tissue. 50? For me? For you." The old man wept, quietly. The kind of crying that comes from a lifetime of believing you don't matter. Marcus sat with him, hand on James's shoulder, and let him cry. After a long moment, James spoke again. "I need to tell you something, before I die. Something I've never told anyone. You don't have to. I want to." James's eyes were steady now, determined. "I need someone to know." Marcus nodded. "I'm listening." James Edward Holland's story came out in fragments. Between labored breaths, between long pauses where the morphine pulled him under and then released him again. He'd been drafted in 1968, 19 years old, scared out of his mind. Shipped to Vietnam, assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division, dropped into the Central Highlands where the war was brutal, chaotic, and unforgiving. James saw things no 19-year-old should see. Did things no person should have to do. But the worst day, the day that defined the rest of his life, came in March 1970. His platoon was ambushed during a patrol, pinned down, taking heavy fire. James's best friend, a kid from Ohio named Danny Vasquez, was hit. Leg shattered, bleeding out. The lieutenant ordered a retreat. "Leave the wounded. We'll come back for them." But James knew better. In that jungle, come back meant never. So he disobeyed. He ran back into the kill zone, grabbed Danny and dragged him to cover. But in the chaos, another soldier, a young private named Marcus Reed, was also hit.
Marcus called for help. James heard him. But he had Danny. He couldn't carry both. The lieutenant was screaming to fall back. James made a choice. He carried Danny to the extraction point. And he left Marcus Reed behind. They never recovered Marcus's body. James's voice broke as he finished the story. I saved one, lost one, and I've spent 50 years asking myself if I made the right choice, if I should have tried harder, if I could have saved them both. Marcus felt his chest tighten. You saved the one you could save, James. That's all anyone can do. But I left a brother behind. I broke the code. You never leave a man behind. And I did. You were 19 years old in a war zone. You made an impossible choice. That doesn't make you a coward. It makes you human. I shook my head. I've carried Marcus Reed with me every day. His face, his voice. I tried to find his family after the war, apologize, tell them what happened, but I couldn't. I was too afraid. Marcus leaned forward. James, listen to me. You served, you fought, you saved a life. That matters. Marcus Reed's death wasn't your fault. I want to believe that. Then believe it, because 300 bikers are coming to honor you, not because you're perfect, because you're a veteran who served his country, and that's enough. James closed his eyes, exhausted. Marcus stayed until he fell asleep. Over the next 2 days, Cheyenne transformed. Motorcycles poured into the city from every direction. The Iron Brotherhood riders from Phoenix. The Patriot Guard from Colorado. The Legion riders from Montana. The Rolling Thunder chapter from Nebraska. Clubs Marcus had never heard of. Solo riders who'd seen the story online and decided to come. By Thursday morning, 287 motorcycles were parked across 3 hotel lots. The local VFW offered their haul for coordination. News crews set up cameras outside the hospital.
And inside room 14, James Holland grew weaker. On Thursday evening, Carol the volunteer found Marcus in the hospital cafeteria. He's asking for you. Marcus followed her to room 14. James was awake. Barely. Ironside. I'm here, brother. How many? Almost 300. James's eyes widened. 300? 300. The old man's face crumpled. I don't deserve this. Yes, you do. James reached out a trembling hand. Marcus took it. Thank you, James whispered, for giving me this, for letting me be remembered. You were never forgotten, James. You just didn't know it yet. James smiled faintly. I'm ready now. Ready for what? To go. I've been holding on. Didn't want to die alone, but now... He looked at Marcus. Now I know I won't be. Marcus's throat tightened. You won't be alone. I promise. James closed his eyes, and at 3:42 a.m. on Friday morning, James Edward Holland, specialist, United States Army, passed away. Carol was with him. Marcus was with him. And outside the hospital, 300 bikers waited to honor him. The funeral was held on Saturday at the Cheyenne National Cemetery. The procession stretched for miles. 300 motorcycles, engines rumbling in unison, riding slowly through the streets of Cheyenne. People lined the sidewalks. Veterans saluted. Children waved flags. The procession rolled through the cemetery gates like thunder. At the gravesite, a simple casket, draped with an American flag, waited. An honor guard from the local VFW performed the service. Taps played. The flag was folded. And then, one by one, 300 bikers filed past the casket. Each one saluted. Each one paid respects to a man they'd never met. Marcus was the last. He stood before the casket, hand over his heart, and spoke quietly, "Rest easy, brother. You're home now." After the service, as the crowd dispersed, an elderly woman approached Marcus. She was in her 70s, leaning on a cane, tears streaming down her face. "Excuse me, are you Ironside?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "My name is Helen Reed. I'm Marcus Reed's sister." Marcus's heart stopped. "The soldier James couldn't save, that was my brother." Marcus didn't know what to say. Helen continued, her voice shaking. "I read about this funeral online, about James Holland, about what he said, about leaving my brother behind. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Don't be." Helen reached out and took Marcus's hand. "I've spent 50 years angry at the army, angry at the war, angry at everyone. But I was never angry at James Holland. He was a boy, just like my brother. They were both boys trying to survive." She pulled an envelope from her purse and handed it to Marcus. "I wrote this for James. I was going to give it to him myself, but I didn't make it in time. Will you put it with him?" Marcus took the envelope, hands trembling. "What does it say?" Helen smiled through her tears. "It says, 'Thank you for trying. Thank you for carrying that guilt for 50 years, and thank you for saving Danny Vasquez, who went on to become a teacher and raised 4 beautiful children. You didn't fail, James. You did exactly what you were supposed to do.'" Marcus's vision blurred. Helen squeezed his hand. "Thank you for honoring him, for making sure he didn't die alone. It was the least I could do." Helen nodded, then walked away, leaning on her cane, disappearing into the crowd of leather and chrome. Marcus opened the envelope. Inside was a Purple Heart medal and a handwritten note. "For James Holland, who carried my brother's memory when no one else would. You are forgiven. You are honored. Rest in peace, soldier." Marcus knelt beside the grave and placed the envelope on the fresh dirt. "You're free now, James. Your war is over," he whispered. 300 bikers came to honor a stranger, but they left with something more. A reminder that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off, that some debts can never be repaid, only honored, and that showing up, even for someone you've never met, is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. Marcus rode 2,000 miles round trip for a man he didn't know, and in doing so, he gave James Holland the one thing he'd been searching for his entire life: peace. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to know that their service matters, that they're not forgotten, that there are still people who will show up. Drop a comment saying, "Ride in peace, James," if you believe every veteran deserves to be honored. Because James Edward Holland died believing he was nobody, but 300 strangers proved him wrong. He was a soldier, he was a brother, and he was remembered.